The sea has always been a place of rhythm. The constant ebb and flow of the tides, the endless cycle of dawn and dusk. It carries with it a calm constancy that shapes both the land and life. Greetings to all, my friends. In the quiet harbors of the Mediterranean, more than 900 years ago, people lived in step with these rhythms. Their days were not hurried, not rushed, but guided by the needs of the water, the winds, and the nets they cast into the sea. Nets were the heart of the fisherman's livelihood. They held the promise of food and income, but they also bore the brunt of the wear and tear of the sea. Salt water chafed their fibers, sharp shells tore small slits, and the fish themselves, squirming, writhing, pulled and tugged at the lines. Without careful repair, the net could not hold the next day's catch. Such was life in a Mediterranean harbor in the early 12th century. Practical, quiet, and enduring. Wars might rage elsewhere, empires might rise and fall. But here, on a sunny rock by the sea, fishermen's hands worked steadily, rebuilding what the sea had destroyed, preparing to infuse hope into the waters once again. This is a story of ordinary labor, of small but vital tasks that sustained communities. It is, in its own way, a story of survival and care. For what is history but countless untold moments of patience and perseverance? The stitching together of everyday life, knot by knot, thread by thread. As you immerse yourself in this story, I invite you to imagine yourself there, sitting on the worn stone of the harbor, the air warm, the breeze carrying the faint cry of distant gulls. Perhaps you hold a piece of netting on your lap, your fingers moving slowly in the rhythm of the repair. Time stretches, slows, softens. The work is never rushed, for the sea will always be here tomorrow, waiting for the return of its nets. Let the rhythm of this story reflect the work itself. Calm, unhurried, attentive. With each moment, you can feel yourself gently sinking into the quiet atmosphere of the harbor. The sounds, the textures, the patience of the repair. The story is not about excitement, but about rest. Not about sudden turns, but about steady progress. A story that will accompany you as you sail to the calmer shores of thought, and perhaps to sleep. And before we begin this slow journey together, I will just gently remind you of one thing. If you find solace in these quiet stories, if you want to hear more stories of everyday life in forgotten centuries, I invite you to become part of this little haven we are building here. Subscribe so you can come back every time the tide of time washes ashore a new story. Leave a like leaving a pebble on the path, marking that you have walked this path. And if you feel like doing so, share your thoughts in the comments, just as fishermen once shared their labors along the piers. Now let us put aside the bustle of the present moment. Let us travel to the year 1100, where the Mediterranean sun warms the stones and a fisherman patiently threads a needle through the worn lines of his net, as he has done countless times before. The harbor still sleeps beneath a pale indigo sky, the stars faint and slow to yield to morning. Even the waves seem hesitant, their gentle laps against the aging wooden hulls more like quiet sighs than splashes. The town, a small coastal village nestled between olive-covered hills and crumbling limestone, remains hushed, its people still in their beds, wrapped in sleep and thin woolen blankets. But at the water's edge, beneath the low arch of a crumbling quay, a man sits cross-legged on a smooth stone worn by decades of salt and tide. His name is Nico, though few call him that. In the village, he is simply the net mender. An old woolen tunic hangs from his shoulders, its sleeves rolled carefully above sun-browned forearms. His hands, with knuckles large and fingers thickened from years of use, move slowly and deliberately over a wide tangle of hemp rope. The net lies between his knees like a collapsed tapestry, loops, knots, and weaves in a language of labor. Some parts are frayed from too many seasons. Others are strong but require tightening, where the sea has teased them loose. The only sounds are small ones. The creak of dock planks, a sleepy gull calling once, then falling silent. The occasional plop of something unseen. A fish? A piece of driftwood? Slipping into the water. The first thread of light edges over the distant horizon, catching on the water's surface. It stretches slowly across the harbor like honey poured from a jar. Still, no one stirs but Nico. His movements have a rhythm, not fast, not slow, but steady. A wooden shuttle wrapped in twine dips and tucks, dips and tucks. Occasionally, he pulls the cord taut, the net giving a faint creak in response. Behind him, the walls of the village remain shadowed. A thatched roof, a chimney of stacked stone, an open window with linen fluttering faintly in the breeze. The village smells faintly of smoke, but down here by the shore, the salt is stronger, mixed with the damp scent of rope, tar, fish, and wood. This hour, just before dawn, is a quiet kept sacred. There is no urgency in it, no bells, no voices, only the whisper of the tide and the slow dance of a man and his net. By the time the sun finally peaks fully above the horizon, the sky has softened into a grayish gold. The wind is still gentle, rustling over the surface of the water and through the sparse reeds that grow near the rocks. The harbor comes into clearer view, not bustling, not empty, just quietly alive. Nico shifts his weight on the stone, stretching one leg out, then the other. The chill in the air still lingers. He rubs his knee briefly, then bends again over the net. His back is curved now from years of this posture, but he minds it little. It is the posture of fishermen, of craftsmen, of those who make things slowly and by hand. A small wooden crate beside him holds tools, a bone needle, a sharp shell for cutting, a leather patch, a cup of weak wine. He rarely uses the knife. He prefers his hands. His fingers know the feel of good rope, know the memory of each knot. Some knots are square, firm, dependable. Others are softer, meant to move. The net is a blend of both. Strength in the frame, give in the belly. Nico mends not just holes, but the very balance of the net. Tightening where the lines sag, easing where they pull too taut. The sea demands flexibility. A rigid net is a broken net. From further down the quay, a low voice calls, not loudly, just a greeting. An older woman in a faded blue shawl makes her way down with a basket of drying herbs. She nods to Nico, who replies with a wordless lift of his hand. They do not speak more. There is no need. The sunlight begins to warm the stones, though not quickly. A cat appears from between the barrels stacked along the wall, striped gray, tail high, ears alert. It approaches Nico, but only enough to settle near his foot, eyes half-lidded, paws tucked neatly under its chest. The work continues. A loop is frayed. Nico snips the end with the edge of his shell. He threads the new line carefully, slowly weaving it through the existing mesh. The pattern is never random, though to an outsider it might look like chaos. There is memory in the weave, a kind of muscle memory in the net itself. He pauses occasionally to test a section, lifting it slightly, tugging with care. When he's satisfied, he lets it settle back into the pile. The sun creeps higher, casting long shadows behind barrels and crates. The sails of boats in the harbor begin to catch the light. Soft cream, aged linen, patched where wind tore them in earlier voyages. Still, Nico works. His body is still, but his mind drifts. Not to memories, not to plans. Just the present. The fibers in his fingers. The play of shadow on the stone. The murmur of gulls wheeling lazily above. By mid-morning, the harbor begins to stir in earnest. Footsteps echo across the wooden pier, sandals scraping, boots thudding. A low clatter of oars being arranged. Murmurs rise, not loud, but present. Fishermen speak in short phrases. A boy runs with a pail, water sloshing against its sides. But where Nico sits, the world remains slower. Children pause at a distance to watch him, not for long, just for a moment. The way his fingers move over the net is like a story being told in gesture alone. They do not ask questions. They are too shy. Besides, everyone knows what he's doing. A dog barks somewhere up the hill. Another answers from further down. The church bell rings once, not for service, but to mark the hour. Somewhere nearby, a carpenter begins work. The soft tapping of mallet on chisel echoes faintly. Nico looks up, squinting slightly at the rising sun. He uncorks the small bottle of wine beside him and sips, not enough to dull the senses, just enough to wet his tongue. Then he lowers his eyes back to the net. He does not mind the growing noise. He has lived among it for many seasons, and it no longer distracts. If anything, it comforts. The familiar harmony of a town going about its day. The whir of a wheelbarrow's wooden axle, the scrape of a basket being dragged. From a nearby boat, a fisherman calls out a greeting. "How many mended today, Nico?" The words are jovial, not urgent. "3," Nico replies, without looking up. His voice is low, not because he is tired, but because he sees no reason to be loud. "Good net?" the man asks. "Good enough," says Nico. The boatman nods, satisfied, and turns back to loading his gear. A soft breeze passes through, lifting strands of Nico's gray hair and teasing the edges of the net. He smooths it gently. The knots remain. They always do. It is the rope that frays, never the knots. The sun now rests high above, and the harbor slows again, not to sleep, but to rest. The market quiets. Most fishermen have departed, their sails small white triangles against the blue-green sea. Nico remains by the quay, his shadow now directly beneath him. He sets aside the net, folding it gently and placing a smooth stone on its edge to hold it in place. He leans back, resting against the wall behind him. The cat, still nearby, has moved into a patch of sunlight. Its fur gleams, and its eyes are shut tight against the brightness. It twitches once, perhaps dreaming of fish. The tide shifts gently, drawing lines of foam along the edges of the dock. A gull drifts down and lands beside a coil of rope, pecking half-heartedly at nothing in particular. Nico unwraps a small bundle of food, a crust of bread, a slice of hard cheese. He eats slowly, savoring the dry, nutty flavor. Between bites, he sips again from the wine. A young girl walks past with a basket of linen. She nods to him. He nods back. He finishes the bread, wipes his hands on a scrap of cloth, and picks up another section of net. This one is older. The cord is paler, the knots slightly looser. It will take more time, but there is no rush. Each knot is a small meditation. Over, under, through. Pull, tighten, test, move on. The sea stretches before him, as calm and endless as always. The boats bob gently, tethered by ropes older than many of the men who sail them. The town continues its slow murmur. Voices, footsteps, the occasional clink of pottery. But here, beneath the sun, beside the nets, with nothing to chase and no deadline to meet, time slows. The older net sits across Nico's knees like an aging animal, dependable, familiar, but showing its years in every thread. The fibers are not as coarse as they once were. They have been worn down by salt, time, and the pull of heavy hauls. Each segment is marked by repairs, some his own, some made long before he first touched it. The light from above has begun to shift again, no longer directly overhead. It now falls across his work at a quiet slant, as if afternoon is tiptoeing in. The stone beneath him is warm now, the edge of his tunic damp from where it meets the surface, slowly drawing in the lingering moisture of the morning dew. Nico picks up the shuttle again, this time working more cautiously. The rope here is soft in places, threatening to fray at the slightest tension. He pauses often, his thumb running along the cords to feel for weakness. He doesn't always see where the net is worn. His fingers find it first. A knot that looks strong may unravel with a pull. Another, seemingly broken, may simply have shifted under pressure, hiding its integrity beneath a twist. Like people, he thinks idly. Or perhaps not. His thoughts rarely linger on metaphors. A nearby fisherman's wife appears with a small clay jug and offers it to him. "Apricot water," she says, and he nods once in thanks. She sets it down on the edge of a barrel and walks on, her sandals tapping quietly against the stones. He drinks slowly, letting the subtle sweetness settle into his throat. It's warmer than he expected. The sun, perhaps, or maybe the stone jug itself, baked by the day. He returns the cork gently, sets the jug beside his tools, and resumes. Over, under, tighten, smooth. This section of the net bears a patch sewn long ago. A different twine, darker, rougher. He traces it once, then decides to reinforce it rather than replace it. It is held after all. A few extra knots at its edge will ensure it lasts another season. In the distance, the sea shifts color again. Now, a slightly deeper shade of blue, the kind that suggests it's beginning to feel the weight of day's end. The boats anchored near the rocks gently bob, their hulls creaking in rhythm. A child's laughter drifts down from above. Somewhere, someone sings softly, the tune wandering over the rooftops before fading into the open air. Nico does not stop his work. He mends because it must be mended, because no one else in the village knows quite how, and because, if not him, then perhaps no one. But there is no bitterness in the thought. Just a quiet sense of duty. His fingers, darkened by sun and sea, continue to move, and the net grows whole again. The sun continues its journey, casting longer and deeper shadows now across the harbor. The stones beneath Nico begin to cool, and the light takes on a golden hue, thick and slow, as if reluctant to leave the day behind. The rhythm of the town has softened. Most work has paused. Bread has been baked, fish cleaned, doors left open to let the air drift through, carrying with it the briny scent of the sea and the faint perfume of rosemary from a window garden above. Nico straightens his back slowly, pausing his hands. He looks toward the hills beyond the village, where groves of olive trees slope lazily toward the sky. Their silvery leaves shimmer softly in the breeze. He has not walked that far in many months, perhaps a year. His knees do not like the incline anymore. But still he remembers the path, the smooth rocks, the chirping insects, the thick scent of summer dust and oil from the olives. He turns his attention back to the net, this one almost finished. A few more rows, a final inspection. He checks each knot again, not rushing, not trusting memory. Every loop is touched, tugged, observed in silence. The cat has wandered off. A pair of pigeons now rest near the quay steps, pecking quietly at crumbs. A fisherman across the dock is cleaning his anchor chain, the metallic scrape faint beneath the breeze. Time slows. The stones around Nico are now a patchwork of light and shadow. He moves slightly to remain in the warmth, not for comfort, but to keep his fingers supple. They do not move as fast as they did in his youth, but they move with greater certainty. Another knot, another loop. The net does not thank him. It simply accepts the change, the repair, the renewal. Once finished, he sets the net beside the others. Carefully folded, the patch sections marked with a slip of red twine. He will return them to their owner tomorrow, though they have not asked for them yet. They will know when they are ready. From the doorway of a nearby storehouse, a voice speaks. Still at it? It is an old man with a thick beard and a twisted walking stick. A friend from many years past, though not one who mends nets. Nico nods once. It's good rope, he replies. The old man smiles faintly. You always say that. Only when it's true. A silence passes between them, not awkward, but familiar. You'll come to the meal tonight? The man asks. If I finish this last one, says Nico, gesturing gently. The old man nods, understanding that answer well. Then he disappears into the dusk, the tap of his stick echoing faintly along the cobbled road. Nico turns to the final net of the day. The last net is finer, used for shallow water fishing, meant for catching small silver fish that dart in schools near the reef. Its weave is tighter, its threads more delicate. Each motion now requires more precision. The larger shuttle he used earlier would fray these cords. Now he switches to a smaller tool. It's shaped like a slender comb carved from bone. The light has grown orange, brushing against the tops of the masts and the tiled roofs above. The breeze from the sea has freshened, not cold but stronger. It smells sharper now, touched with kelp and faint hints of brine-covered wood. The fishermen have mostly returned, their boats moored quietly, some rocking in the shallows, some drawn up onto the sand. Footsteps echo differently now, more relaxed, slower. Buckets clatter, laughter hums. Nico tucks the threads of the fine net carefully, aligning them with practiced ease. He does not rush, even though dusk approaches. He likes to finish before the light fades entirely, but he will continue by lantern if he must. The wind lifts one of the net's corners. He smooths it gently, laying a small stone to keep it from folding. From a boat nearby, a young man plays a flute, a wandering tune, slow, half improvised. It dances over the water, soft and reedy. Nico does not look up, but his hands pause for a moment. Then, with a small sigh, he resumes. His thoughts drift, not to the future, but to the texture of the thread, the slight shift in tone when the cord stretches just right. He hums, not a song, not quite, just a low, tuneless murmur, like wind moving through reeds. The net is nearly finished now. He tests it section by section. The mesh is light but strong, ready to hold what it must. It will catch fish or let them pass. It will flex with the tide and rest in coils when not in use. It will live another year, maybe more. When he folds it, gently, precisely, he ties it with a length of pale twine and sets it atop the others. 3 mended today. That is enough. He stands slowly, brushing his palms together. His knees complain, but he does not answer them. His work is done for now. He gathers his tools, placing them in the small crate. The wine is mostly gone. The apricot water, too. The sun is sinking behind the hills, painting the clouds in shades of lavender and coral. The quay is quiet again. Nico walks slowly through the harbor lane, his crate in one hand, his bundle of nets tied carefully over his shoulder. The stone path is uneven, but he knows every rise and dip. His sandals make soft tapping sounds against the worn road. The town glows with the last of the sun. Lamps are being lit, slow flickers of flame behind colored glass. The smell of lentils and garlic drifts from a window. Somewhere, a baker finishes his last round of flatbread, the scent warm and heavy in the air. Children call to one another in the square, their voices high and drifting like birds. A woman scolds gently from a doorway, and the laughter fades. Nico passes the chapel, a simple building of white stone with a wooden door worn smooth by generations of hands. He touches the frame lightly, more habit than gesture. At the far end of the village, a courtyard is being prepared for the evening meal. A long table rests under the branches of a fig tree. Simple clay bowls and wooden spoons wait in neat rows. A jug of watered wine stands beside a pitcher of cool well water. He places his nets by the storehouse. He will deliver them tomorrow, and sets his crate just inside the door. A young boy, not more than 12, nods to him and locks the door. The air cools quickly now. Nico wraps his shawl a little tighter. The stars begin to show, a few at first, then many. They blink slowly, like tired eyes adjusting to darkness. He takes a seat at the edge of the courtyard, not among the loudest, but not alone. A plate is passed to him, and he takes it without a word. Lentils, bread, a slice of dried plum. He eats slowly, deliberately. Around him, voices rise and fall, but he hears mostly the sea, ever present just beyond the road. Its voice is quieter now, but it has not stopped. And neither have the nets. The sky is darkened to a velvet blue, and the stars now burn clearly overhead. Not fierce, just present, like quiet sentinels watching over the harbor. A soft breeze drifts through the alleyways, tugging at open shutters and carrying the scent of time from somewhere uphill. Nico walks back toward the quay after the evening meal. He does this often. Some might say out of habit. Others might think it a need for solitude. But he does not name it. He simply likes the quiet of the harbor at night. In one hand, he carries a lantern, an old iron frame with oiled paper panels, glowing softly with a yellow flame inside. It sways slightly as he walks, casting rhythmic shadows that ripple across the walls like reflections on water. The stones are cool beneath his feet. The sea, darker now, laps gently against the moored boats. The sails have been folded and tied, the ropes coiled neatly. Every vessel rests like a sleeping animal, tethered and still. He returns to the place where he spent the morning, the flat stone beneath the quay wall. His tools are gone now, stored safely. The nets are mended, but he sits anyway, the lantern placed at his side. The flame within it flickers, warm and steady. He rests his hands on his knees, his back curved forward slightly. He does not speak. There is no one to speak to. But the night speaks plenty. Frogs chirp from a nearby pond. A moth dances near the lantern. A pair of crickets begin their measured song in the weeds beside a crate. Nico closes his eyes for a while, though he does not sleep. His ears attune to the small sounds. Rope creaking, waves brushing wood, the distant murmur of a dog barking once and then falling silent. After a time, he pulls something from his pouch, not rope, not twine, but a short length of soft thread, perhaps for mending clothes, or perhaps simply to keep his fingers busy. Even at night, his hands do not know how to be still. He weaves a small pattern, looping it slowly between his thumbs. It forms no net, catches no fish, but the motion is the same. The comfort lies not in what is made, but in the act of making. The lantern grows dimmer. He adjusts the wick gently, careful not to snuff the flame. Then, still seated, he lets the hush of the harbor wrap around him. Far in the distance, a bell tolls once. Not the chapel bell, but the signal of a ship preparing to enter port. A late return or an early start. He listens, then resumes the slow winding of the thread. The nets are mended, but the world still needs tending. When at last Nico returns home, the village is asleep. The lantern glows low in his hand, casting soft yellow light upon doorways and stones. A shutter creaks faintly above, moved by the breeze. A dog snores gently by a threshold, tail twitching in some half-dream. His home is small, a low, square structure with a roof of curved terracotta tiles and walls the color of dust. He pushes the wooden door open with his foot. It groans slightly on its hinges. Inside, everything is quiet. A single table sits beneath a window, its surface marked by years of use. Bowls, knots, tools, a chipped cup. In the corner rests a bundle of spare rope, loosely coiled like a sleeping creature. A blanket hangs from a peg on the wall. A bed of straw and woven cloth lies in the far corner. He places the lantern near the window and lowers himself onto the edge of the bed. His body moves slowly now. Not painfully, just with the careful deliberation of someone who knows his own weight. He removes his sandals, folds his tunic, drinks the last of the apricot water from a clay vessel on the shelf. Before lying down, he walks once more to the small window and peers out. The sea, barely visible now, gleams faintly under the starlight. The masts sway. A gull murmurs in its sleep. The nets, folded and waiting, rest in the shadows. He murmurs a short prayer, not to any god in particular, but perhaps to the ropes, to the sea, to the gentle rhythms that shape the world. Then he lays himself down beneath a woolen blanket, and sleep takes him not like a storm, but like the tide. Slow, persistent, quiet. His dreams are simple. In them he walks barefoot across a warm shoreline, nets trailing behind him. He feels the cord in his hands, hears the gulls above, sees the fish glinting below the surface. There are no voices, no urgency. Only light, only water, only rope. And the feeling of something whole being restored, one knot at a time. Dawn arrives, not suddenly, but gradually, like a soft cloth being drawn slowly across the sky. Nico wakes early. The room is still dim, painted in pale shades of gray-blue. The sounds of the harbor are faint, but already beginning. The hush of the tide, the slow creak of wood, a rooster crowing from the hillside. He rises, stretching slowly, his joints cracking faintly in the silence. He dresses in layers, a fresh tunic, a woolen shawl over his shoulders. Then he steps out into the morning air. The sky above is streaked with pink. The hills are still wrapped in mist. The boats, glistening with dew, seem caught in a moment between sleep and wakefulness. He walks to the storehouse first. Inside, the nets from yesterday await their return. He lifts them carefully, placing them over his shoulder. Their weight is familiar, not heavy, but present, like responsibility. He begins the walk through the village, past shuttered homes and narrow alleyways. He leaves the nets at the doorstep of the small house near the fig orchard. Their owner will find them soon enough. He doesn't knock. There's no need. Then, empty-handed and unhurried, he strolls toward the quay once again. The stone is still damp, the sea darker now than it will be at midday. He takes a seat on his usual spot, the same worn slab as before. The cat returns, trotting lightly down the steps. It settles beside him, licking a paw with practiced ease. Nico reaches into his pouch. Today's net is coarser, longer, a trawl net, meant for deeper waters. Its damage is not great, but it needs attention. He spreads it gently across his lap. And then, once more, the rhythm begins. Loop, pass, knot, pull. Each motion is a return, not to the past, not even to routine, but to the soft certainty that some things, even in their impermanence, endure. The sun rises higher now, warming the tops of the crates and casting faint lines across the water. The village awakens slowly. Children fetch water from the well. Women sweep their doorways. Men gather ropes and prepare sails. But still, Nico works. He does not glance up often. When he does, it's only briefly, to watch the way the light catches on the rim of a bucket, or how a sail billows once before settling. His thoughts are not loud. They drift like sea foam, fleeting, untroubled. He thinks perhaps of his father, who taught him these knots, of nets mended under older skies in quieter harbors, of seasons past when his hands moved faster, and of the knowledge that soon someone else will take up the shuttle, the bone needle, the loops of twine. But there is no sorrow in these thoughts, only continuity, only rope and rhythm. By midday, another net will be mended. By sunset, perhaps one more. But there is no tally to be kept, no race to be won, only the slow, deliberate act of repair, and the quiet joy of work done well. The sea, eternal and unknowable, whispers always at his side. The gulls wheel above, the sun dances on the water, the tide ebbs and flows, and Nico, with his weathered fingers and steady gaze, knots the world gently back together, one loop at a time,